Golden Metal Resources is a development and mineral exploration company focused in Nevada, in the States. Recent results have confirmed that the company's flagship Pilot Mountain project might just contain a porphyry system as well. To talk us through the developments, I'm delighted to be joined by the Chief Executive, Oliver Friesen. So, Oliver, before we go into the detail, we just need a very quick reminder of what a porphyry system is and why they generate so much excitement.
Yeah, of course. So, as a geology background myself, a porphyry system is something we learn about very early on in our university careers because they are such important systems globally, and they represent the by far and away the most important source of copper globally. So, I think I went through the top 10 list of biggest copper mines in the world. I think 8 or 9 of them were porphyry systems. So they're quite large, and they can be quite big prizes when you find them. So the main reason they're so important is because of the size and just how much copper they contain on a global kind of landscape. So they're important systems, and obviously we've always been looking for one on our properties as well because it could be quite significant for our shareholders if we do find one.
So, your recent investor update highlights that Pilot Mountain may have a buried porphyry system. So, what steps are you now taking to establish if this is the case?
Yeah, of course. So just to kind of step back a little bit, so Pilot Mountain, the main deposits that are known about right now are skarn deposits. Skarn deposits are associated with limestone carbonate units, and in the case of Pilot Mountain, we have very rich tungsten, copper, silver, zinc skarns that are at surface and have been drilled out, including at Desert Shielite, where we have the largest undeveloped tungsten deposit on U.S. soil. So the skarn deposits has really been the driver of value on Pilot Mountain. But as a geologist and someone who's been involved with porphyry exploration for most of my career, anytime I see a skarn system in the back of my mind, I'm always going, there's got to be a porphyry somewhere. Because in that same model we learned in first year university, is you'll see a porphyry stock at depth. So a porphyry deposit is associated with some sort of intrusion that comes up and intrudes through the Earth's surface. And as it rises, a lot of mineral-rich fluids escape off that system and form these deposits. But in that same model, if you Google, kind of idealized porphyry system, you'll see peripheral to the porphyry are always skarns, and skarns are where the fluids coming off the porphyry interact with the limestone unit. So a bit technical, but the skarn is what's known about at Pilot Mountain. But once again, in the back of my mind, I'm always going, there could be and there should be a porphyry somewhere within this property, which is the main source of all the fluids, the mineralizing fluids across Pilot Mountain. So the steps that we've taken, it's been about a year journey to really understand this target. The first step that we took about 2 years ago was to really understand all the historical data that was available. There was a magnetic survey done, very low resolution, many years ago, which showed on the very edge of the survey what looked to be some sort of magnetic anomaly. Typically, these porphyries that come up are more magnetic than the surrounding wall rock. So the magnetic historical database, that we looked at that first and went, okay, well, maybe that's potentially where our porphyry could be. So we went in there in 2022, in early 2023, and did the IP survey. That's another geophysical survey which tells us the chargeability and the resistivity of the rocks. Porphyry systems, once again, they're typically associated with some sort of chargeability anomaly as well as a resistivity anomaly. So when we did that survey, we did it over the area where we thought the porphyry could be. And sure enough, we found kind of very characteristic chargeability and resistivity anomalies. So further increase in our confidence that there could be a porphyry system, and more importantly, that's located entirely within our Pilot Mountain property and actually quite close and proximal to Desert Shielite, which I mentioned not too long ago. So following that, we were getting closer to the drill program. We knew it was a target we had to go and test. So to increase our confidence and really help with our drill targeting, we went and did the ground magnetics. Reason being, as I mentioned, these porphyry stocks are magnetic. So sure enough, we did the ground magnetics and quickly moved to an inversion survey, which showed a very nice coherent magnetic anomaly at depth at about 300 meters down. Coincident with that magnetic anomaly was the chargeability and the resistivity. So as we kind of build up all these different layers, it's clearly pointing to something that looks to be a porphyry. Now we need to go and drill it to confirm what it is. And just to further increase our confidence, I know I'm kind of rambling on here, but as the magnetic survey was being completed, one of the operators walked over what's part of the porphyry or the magnetic anomaly at surface and found some pretty impressive historical trenches with quite a bit of copper mineralization at surface right above that magnetic anomaly. So all these factors continue to build up and increase our confidence here. So now it's time to go and drill it and see what's down there.
Okay, so drilling does give validation. So talk to me about what the drilling program looks like, and when, for the impatient, when would the results come back?
Yeah, of course. So what we've announced right now is a minimum of 2,000 meters. 2,000 meters, considering where the skarn deposits are, which are at surface, is going to give us a very robust program, probably about 6 to 9 holes, a part of that program. And that's going to include targets at Desert Scheelite. There's some great potential to increase the resources down along strike. On top of that, we're looking to increase our confidence in certain areas, which would lead into a PFS study in 2025. So a lot of great targets within Desert Scheelite itself. And then the IP survey that I mentioned previously identified 5 other targets, including Porphyry South. So we also have holes permitted into multiple other targets. So we're going to be drilling, the Desert Scheelite, the known resource, but looking for new zones within that. But more importantly, and potentially more exciting, is the fact that we're going to be drilling some of these brand new targets, which have never been drilled before. So it's going to be a lot of news flow. It's going to be testing a lot of different targets and looking to prove up our multiple kind of objectives, which is to increase our understanding of the resource, but also make new discoveries. So a really exciting program that we put a lot of time into, and we feel very confident in the targets that we've identified so far. Then in terms of results timelines, the great thing about this property and just being in Nevada in general is the infrastructure is fantastic. So 2 hours away by paved road up in Reno, Nevada, is the ALS Labs laboratory. So that's where we're going to be doing all of our analysis. So what that means is because we're so close, we can complete a hole, or say complete 2 holes, process that core, and then have someone drive that core directly to Reno to start that process. So it means that as we're continuing through this program, we are going to be delivering results continually as those come back from the lab. So a lot of programs, they'll drill all the meters, process, send it to the lab, and you might hear back 5 months from the start date. In this case, there will be continual news, which is exciting for the market. So a lot of great targets. Porphyry South is just one of them. There's a lot of other fantastic ones, and the quick turnaround time should be another great bonus.
So I'm just wondering who else you're going to meet on that road to the laboratory, because it sounds as though it's getting busy out there. The porphyry copper exploration in the US, it's gathering pace. Who else is emerging on the scene? Any tier ones?
Yeah, no, as I mentioned, porphyry deposits, they're the most important source of copper globally. And I think anyone that has been on Twitter or watched the news lately understands what's going on in the copper space right now, which is prices are moving up. And there's just not many new discoveries being made. So in the Canadian markets, the TSX, TSXV, CSC, there's quite a few junior mining companies who are pushing forward porphyry exploration in the Western United States and having quite a bit of success. Intrepid Metals, Hercules Silver, or Hercules Metals, I believe, as well comes to mind. Drilling it and finding porphyries and having a lot of success, and market cap is reflective of that. Now, in terms of the kind of the big boys, I think I saw just a few days ago that I believe BHP and Ivanhoe Electric just announced a collaborative effort to look for copper and copper porphyries in Western United States. So it's an area and jurisdiction that's really, really heating up. And we were kind of had the foresight to position ourselves with some great porphyry targets about 2, 3 years ago when we picked up these assets. So we're looking to join the leagues of the other companies looking for these porphyries. And if we are successful in drilling into one of them, it could be very transformational, which is exciting as a CEO.
So I understand that you've staked another 12 claims. How does this work? I can't imagine that you just get a stick and a roll of string and say, that's mine. What's the protocol?
Yeah, funny. I mean, you say that, but that's more or less the process. The great thing, or I guess depending on how you look at it, the thing about the United States mining code is it hasn't really changed since the 1800s. So it's a very antiquated system. So it's a lot of historical kind of ways that this is done. So opposed to Canada, where you go online and stake everything, we literally send guys to the ground to post in the ground. And that's how you stake those properties, and then you send the details to the BLM to register those. So we had guys on site not too long ago banging wooden posts into the ground, and then we send that off. So that's how we claim those areas. And the reason that we staked more ground was, first of all, when we really got a handle as to where this magnetic target was at Porphyry South, there's some ground around it that we wanted to make sure we had access to. And then on top of that, towards the east, as we move to a more development stage of this process, there was some area needed for potential future mining infrastructure. So we beefed out the property towards the east where it's nice and flat, where you could build some of this infrastructure.
So a land grab has started. So do you have the funds to own more land and continue with analysis, data collection, and drilling comfortably?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a good time to ask this question. We recently completed a strategic financing for £750,000 with a very well known investor here in the UK, very supportive of the business and kind of aligned with our other major shareholders as well. So it's great to have that group on board to support us as we look to achieve our goals over the next kind of 12 to 24 months. But then on top of that, we've been very fortunate to have some success with our share price since the IPO, and the first tranche of warrants. Most of those have now come in or have come in, which has further funded the business. So we're in a really great financial position. Which, as someone looking to invest in a business, that's always kind of the main question that you ask. So we're very fortunate that the 2,000 meters is fully funded, as well as a bunch of other exploration and development that we'll be talking about over the coming months here. So we're in a great position, and we're also in a position to potentially expand the program from 2,000 meters to more with the money that's come in. So yeah, we're in a great position, and looking forward to going and adding value with that money now is what we're going to do.
So the share price has doubled over the past 6 months. Is the stock starting to reflect the value of the company's potential, the potential actual, and the one that's aspired to?
Well, I mean, as a CEO, I always think we're undervalued. That's just my job. But the work that we've done over the last year, I mean, if you look at the news we've put out almost weekly now, it really has pointed to a lot of value being added across the portfolio. Now we're starting to see that reflected in the share price. But if you look at some of these other explorers, looking for copper or other kind of strategic metals in the US, you could certainly make an argument that we are very undervalued. But it's not my job to sit here and gripe about the share price. My job is to continue to add value, to put out news, and that's what we're going to continue to do here. So, yeah, if you look at the market cap now, I think we're probably around 13, 14 million pounds. But if we're able to execute on a lot of our objectives and initiatives over the next 6 to 9 months and beyond, I think you could argue that a much higher valuation would be warranted in that position.
We do tend to spend an awful lot of time, you and I, talking about Pilot Mountain, but what about Garfield? I always feel as though Garfield is the underdog. Does the data suggest that it won't remain so?
Yeah, I mean, it's one that continues to surprise me. I mean, since day one where we acquired that asset, it was only 3 claims. I mean, a tiny footprint. And if you look at our website and see what that project has become, it's just proof that this is becoming better and better and more exciting and more exciting. So it's a standalone asset now, in my opinion, in most companies or in a lot of companies, with the value that we've added, but also where the potentially we could go with that asset and the footprint there and the target. So funny enough, since we've the last 12 months have really been getting our ducks in a row when it comes to Pilot Mountain and preparing ourselves for this drill program. But Garfield has been a great asset because we've been able to work it relatively inexpensively and add a lot of value. So now we're kind of shifting gears a little bit here back to Pilot Mountain. But with everything that's happened at Garfield, that's we're not going to slow down there. We're going to continue to push forward. So we're going to push those forward in tandem now. We'll have some further results on Garfield coming out here. I encourage everyone to keep an eye open for that. But what we're looking for there is porphyry targets once again. And there's a lot of copper at surface and some great anomalies at depth there. Just a question of if there's a porphyry system there, we're looking to find out one way or another.
So to summarize, Oliver, what is the priority? What are the next steps? And why should we invest now?
Well, I mean, if the way I'm seeing the market now, we've been in a very long bear market. It's been a very tough time in the space. A lot of companies have been beaten up. But what that leads to is potentially, and what I think will be an incredibly exciting bull market, because we've underinvested in the space, and now there's a huge push to reshore the supply chains of critical battery and defense metals back onto North American soil. So we're perfectly positioned for that narrative. We own the largest tungsten deposit. We're exploring for potentially very exciting copper deposits as well. So the great thing about the company, or what I really like about it, is we have a ton of intrinsic inherent value right now in our Pilot Mountain project, owning the largest undeveloped tungsten deposit. And there's a huge push to reshore, as I mentioned, the supply chains away from unfriendly countries, and we're the only tungsten deposit of size. So already a ton of value baked in there, but also as we push that forward through exploration and more importantly development, looking to tap into government funds to support that. We also have the exploration going on as well, and that's where you can really get the exciting outcomes and kind of the torque that a lot of people expect when they invest in this space. So you get that great baseline valuation in Pilot Mountain and the tungsten and what we're going to be doing there and adding value, but also you get exposure to potentially some pretty significant upside outcomes if we are able to drill and have some success. So it's really well-balanced company. We're well-financed now, great shareholders. So a lot of those boxes, and in my opinion, all the boxes have been checked. So just a matter of going out there and drilling and seeing what we come up with now.
Oliver Friesen, thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.